To many people, it feels like badminton is more boring nowadays, especially in men's singles. Whenever we analyze past games on YouTube, we would always see people in the comments section talking about how players today do not compare at all to those of the past, like Chong Wei and Lin Dan. It seems like it's a popular sentiment too. Many of the videos we make on players who don't even play anymore, particularly in Lin Dan, Momota, and Chong Wei, gets far more viewers than videos we make on current players. And indeed, we prefer watching the older matches too, because gameplay back then really did seem more skilled. But does that mean players today are just worse than before? Not necessarily. To clarify, when we compare the current level of badminton to older generations, we're really comparing post-2020s to the previous 2 decades. And between these time periods, people will often refer to the past players as more smooth and exciting to watch than current players. Why is that the case? Well, we studied hours of footage from older BWF gameplay and compared it to current BWF gameplay, and here's what we found. In the 2000 and 2010 eras, badminton players were much more intentional with their shot selection. The vast majority of time, every shot had an idea behind it, and the subsequent shots and movements were often all planned out. This is why badminton was often described as a physical game of chess. On the pro stage, where everyone's skills and consistency are expected to be at the highest level, the way a player gets points is through outplaying their opponents. Just take a look at this rally here, where Peter Gade pushes Taufik to his backhand and steps closer in anticipation of a drop. Taufik, however, does not play the drop and opts for a drive that catches Gade off guard and wins the rally. Today's badminton doesn't have this feeling where players win by truly outplaying their opponents. Instead, it's just the guy who makes the fewest mistakes who wins. Of course, that's not to say that current players don't have strategy. They're pros for a reason and still play with a brain. The problem, however, is twofold. First, strategy does not flow and adapt like it used to. Players today have ideas, but they're often stuck to just a few shots within the rally. For example, players might play good attacking shots and get the opportunity for a kill. But after they play the few shot combos they practiced, they're not ready for the next shot and instinctively hit the bird without any thought. Just look at this rally between Kodai and Lakshya Sen at the 2025 Arctic Open. What we want to highlight is how Lakshya Sen plays a great defensive shot that makes Kodai play an extremely late backhand. But despite the opportunity, Lakshya Sen doesn't do anything with the shot. We get that it's a long rally, and the players don't have a ton of energy left to move at fast speeds and attack, but surely there was an opportunity to move closer toward the shot Sen played, and then look to punish a loose backhand with either a spin net or cross net. Instead, Sen opts to play a net that just got the bird over. And even worse, Kodai proceeds to repeat the same mistake. He pushes Sen to the backcourt, and when Kodai sees Sen turn his body to take a late backhand, for sure that should have been an indicator to not take so many steps back to the middle and stay further up at the net. But he doesn't, and ends up just relifting Sen's backhand shot. If we use the chess analogy, this is basically the same as playing 2 good moves and then just randomly moving pieces because you don't know or forgot what to do next. Pro players from previous generations, however, have ideas in their head and are constantly adapting them as the game progresses. This rally between Chong Wei and Kento Momota is great contrast. It's also a long rally. like the one between Sen and Naraoka with a lot of clears, but Momota noticeably maintains his focus and awareness better. For example, he gets more ready for defense when he sees Chong Wei jump up because he's anticipating a faster shot, or when Chong Wei starts his swing a bit slower, Momota becomes more ready to attack the net. Here's another example. In this rally, Taufik plays a late backhand clear and prepares for defense. But because he notices that Peter Gade is off-footed and did not expect the backhand clear, Taufik adjusts his position and looks to punish. It's not just the legends either. In the 2013 Suderman Cup match between Kenichi Tago and Jan Jorgensen, there was a rally where Tago pushes Jan to his late forehand. And although Jan jumps out and attacks, his positioning makes it extremely difficult to hit across. Thus, Tago shifts over in anticipation, but also is prepared to continue to play out his shot combos for an ultimate winner. Now, what makes badminton particularly fun to watch is when both players have strategies and actively fight each other to successfully execute their own strategy or prevent their opponent from doing so. The following rally is a good example, and we'll let you watch the whole thing first. Just in this rally, there's already so much to talk about. We can first look at how Chong Wei used a deceptive cross net on Lin Dan's cross slice to prevent a straightforward follow-up. Most players instinctively net off of these cross nets, which is why Chong Wei moves forward, but Lin Dan opts to push instead. Seeing how Chong Wei got caught off guard and is taking a late forehand, Lin Dan opts to wait closer to the front of the court, anticipating a drop or high straight clear. But it gets better. Instead of playing any of those two shots, Chong Wei punches it cross and forces Lin Dan to take a backhand. And as the rally progresses, you'll notice more moments, like how Lin Dan opts to block more toward the middle to prevent the easy straight follow-up, or when Chong Wei chooses to stop drop, seeing how Lin Dan has rushed to the back, anticipating a smash. Players today have less of this. They're more likely to play into their opponent's combos and give the opportunity to their opponent. Let's take the net, for example. A very common shot pattern that every pro will know is spin net, get a high lift, and smash. But that's not the only way to play the game. You can respin, try to take it early and push flat, cross net, or do any shot with some deception. With all these options, however, players today will almost always choose the standard pattern. Regardless of whether that's good or bad, safer or riskier, it is why badminton men's singles has felt more boring. Players nowadays pretty much do the same thing. Rally until someone plays a loose block and then spin net, lift, and smash. Repeat if necessary. We're not necessarily saying that it will be more exciting if players play with more variation at the net, but it is more exciting when both players on court actively look to contest each other. Force each other to play higher quality shots with more deception, more speed. Now, some might say that it is because the game is so fast now that it requires players to play the way they do, with many referring to how smash speeds have gone from barely breaking 400 kilometers per hour to over 500 kilometers per hour. What people should know, however, is that technology has indeed changed smash speed, but only in the sense of how it's recorded. Camera technology has improved where it can track a shuttle's speed more accurately and, more importantly, closer to the exact instant that the shuttle leaves the racket strings. We can confirm that this is the main cause, as Yonex did indeed use a 40,000 frames per second camera to record their smash record, while BWF has been using Hawkeye camera systems that don't track as precisely. Actual equipment technology has not actually changed much. Some people may even argue that it's gotten worse, but we digress. The reason we say this is because you can just look at how older rackets like the Yonex Duora Z-Strike are still preferred by various players, or even how old rackets from the Yonex Voltric and Arc Saber lineup are more than usable. Most importantly, players like Chong Wei and Lin Dan were playing well into their 30s, and even slowing the pace, and still finding success. There's no way an aging Chong Wei should be able to increase his smash speed by over 100 kilometers per hour, given the exponential relation between air resistance and speed. Plus, players that we'll note as remnants of the past generation in Victor Axelsen and Chou Tianchen have still been able to maintain their rankings and level of play relative to everyone around despite older age. So ultimately, it really has been the current players not showing as much skill and badminton IQ as the past generation, at least at the peak level. A lower peak isn't entirely the fault of the players themselves, though. 2020 was, of course, when the COVID pandemic happened, and it included multiple unfortunate events that took strong contenders out of the picture. Most notably, players like Kento Momota, Anthony Ginting, and even Shiyu Chi were supposed to be among the main competitors for Axelsen in the first half of this decade, but unfortunate events had led to declines in their performances. And so, there haven't been many smooth passing the torch over transitions, if you will, and young players like Kunlevut Vididzarn and Kodai Naraoka end up getting slotted into a position of being the top player right away. These players are no means bad, but they haven't had the same opportunity to compete against the best of the best, to eventually overtake them and become the top players themselves. And ultimately, the difference between current top players and the top players of the past really lies with their shot selection and intention. Game plans don't continuously adapt and flow like before, and players don't make nearly as much of an effort as they did to contest each other and execute their own game plan. What do you guys think, though? Are the top players right now worse than before? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. And thank you for watching.